On our agenda, Acting City Manager, Mr. David Lakefield.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's my pleasure to give this report in Mr. Berry's absence this evening. I'll try to keep my comments to less than 30 minutes as well, so we can keep things moving along. We'll hit some of the highlights. Again, important dates, 6th of June, the SRJB board meeting at 4 o'clock p.m. at the auditorium. The 13th of June, we have a couple of items. Verandery Electric Co-op's annual meeting at 4:30 at the State Fair Center. Chamber Infrastructure, 7:30 a.m. at Homesteaders, so we can get breakfast and dinner that night. The 17th of June, IEDC Stakeholders Group, 9 a.m., Auditorium Room 201, and then City Council again at 5:30 here in Council Chambers. 18th of June, Chamber of Commerce Board meeting at 7:30 a.m. at the Grand Hotel. We have the City Council Budget Workshop at 4 p.m. on the 20th of June, and I'm sure you're excited to all participate in that again this year. 21st of June, the Magic Fund at 7:30 a.m. That's pending any applications. I'm not aware of any at this point, so we'll keep you informed on that. And then the Planning Commission again on the 24th of June, again here in Council Chambers. Some construction updates. There's been a lot going on the last couple of weeks, so we're going to give you some of the highlights here. Flood control, if anybody's been north on Broadway, there's a lot going on both sides of the highway. As you know, in the last couple of weeks, Broadway was completely closed down to accommodate some of that underground work that was being done. Some of us from the city here had the opportunity to go and tour some of that underground work that was being accomplished and actually walk through the storm drain portion of that construction. It was fairly impressive. It turns out the contractor was able to get that portion of the construction done on time to minimize the impacts to traffic. So it appears that that was probably a very wise decision to close the traffic down completely to minimize the impact that it would have had in the long run. We're still going to see head-to-head traffic until about the end of July. They were supposed to start vertical pours in some of the flood walls, I believe, this week or maybe even this morning. If you drove by, you can see exactly what was in the picture with the formwork going up and the rebar. So things are really starting to take shape. It's going to be very visible there along Broadway in the near future. There will be some upcoming impacts along 3rd Street and 5th Avenue that'll be coming as that work moves further east. More flood control. This is over by 16th Street. We have some animation. This is one of the pump stations in the background for the storm sewer. The design of this was made to fit in with the surrounding landscape and the architecture around there, so it wouldn't look so much like a pump station. It's pretty amazing some of the progress they've made. Again, 16th Street is reduced to head-to-head traffic to accommodate the utility relocation and also preparing for the flood control structure, or the closure structure on the north side of the river there. Napa Valley, the levees are nearly complete. And again, the focus is on the pump station near WeLinks. And also there's the irrigation pump station that is being reconstructed to accommodate WeLinks as well. You want to keep watching this loop through a few more times? Okay, annual maintenance. There's 2 seasons in North Dakota, and I think today we can say winter is probably over, so we're going to move on to road construction. Street patching is already underway. I've seen this personally in some of the parts of town. It's scattered across the city as they work on those potholes and section repairs that they have to do. Typically, they're in and out, a relatively quick fashion. The one that I drove around the other day, they had a flag person there because it was 1 lane of traffic, so they were controlling the traffic. Street sealing is going to begin later in June. That'll be across the city. And we'll keep you updated on the areas and schedule for that. Improvement projects, we have upcoming overlay on North Broadway from 21st Avenue to 36th Avenue starting this week. It's expected to last about a month. Be some head-to-head traffic there as well. And then some concrete panel replacements on North and South Broadway from 20th Avenue Southwest to 16th Avenue Northwest. So a big stretch of Broadway is going to have some of those decaying portions replaced. NDR update, gathering space has been a hot topic in the recent past. We're making some progress. Some of it that notable here, we have 2 properties where we have a potential purchase agreement that would fall within HUD rules. We have 2 other property owners that have counter-offered and suggested land swaps. So we've identified some potential land, and we have to come up with the comparative value to see if we can get those to work out. We're still waiting on an appraisal for another property. And unfortunately, at this point, we have 1 property that still remains outside the guidelines with their counteroffer. So we continue to work to see if we can reach some progress and come up with a deal on that remaining property as well. An emergency exercise at the airport. This is something scheduled June 12th from 1 to 4. It's a requirement. The airport goes through this periodically. You can expect some realistic simulations, meaning sirens, smoke, crash carnage, people that appear to be injured, emergency response vehicles. They do request the public avoid watching the exercise from the airport, just so that we don't create some congestion or traffic problems. They try to make this as lifelike as possible, so they need the room to work and respond as they would in a real emergency. Budget workshop. I know you're all just can't wait to go through this again. We have that coming up June 20th at 4 o'clock. We're going to start out with a brief overview, some current projections, the financial position of the city, and then a capital project funding discussion, and then hopefully some very open and candid discussion that will take place. This will be a much different approach than in years past. Some of the limitations that we are against up against this year, and some of the guidance that we have been given by members of the council and city leaders. So we'll take a much different approach to it this year, and we're looking forward to some collaboration and some problem solving. Public Works Week was last week. I know there's a picture of Alderman Padragula enjoying the festivities. We had a number of younger children participating, taking a look at the different equipment. Got to sit in some of these different equipment and register to win some prizes. We have one young lady here signing her name on the blade of a snowplow. So I think it was very well received. I think we have a picture here maybe of the winner. One young lady got to ride to school the next day in a sanitation truck and actually got to pick up some containers along the way, so she was very excited about that. A number of the local vendors participated in bringing pieces of equipment to display, and also provided prizes to give away to the kids. So a good turnout, and I think some of the kids really enjoyed it. They seemed to like playing in the old bus that was there as opposed to the brand new bus. So it was pretty interesting. Here's the grand prize winner. I guess we're going to get to watch the video. By all accounts, her and her mother were quite excited when she got the news. So overall, I think it was a very good event, and definitely educational for those that participated. Spring cleanup week. So some of the statistics and showing the comparison to the last few years. I know anybody that drove through town during this event, there was a lot of stuff out at the curb. So a lot of city crews driving around, not just in garbage trucks, but in pickups and trailers, and picking up all different kinds of things. So I think it was a good effort, and in most accounts and most categories, the numbers were up this year as well. More fun was to be had this past Saturday, and I guess it was a lovely day. We had numerous city employees and some council members participate. And by all accounts, it was educational and definitely a fun and exciting time. So here's a few of the pictures from the Fire Department's Citizens Academy. I believe it was about 18 different people participated. Everyone survived, made it through the exercise. We have a couple council members now I think that can sub for in the case of emergencies, maybe. So it was good. Here's a few of the highlights. Any questions?
Alderman Straight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess in honor of Mr. Walski not being here, Dave, I have a couple of comments. One, Josh will appreciate that. I guess one thing I just wanted to mention as I was thinking about the flood walls and the pictures along Railway Ave, just over Broadway, if folks have an opportunity to take the south side of the river, the bike path and trail that currently exists, and look at the flood work happening, it's a fantastic kind of process that's in the works. But many of us have sat up here and we've had a discussion about betterments and the importance that some of us feel to have trails and not just flood walls. And that is case in point. If you think of a flood wall being 15 to 17 feet high right there, I can't think of a worse situation that we would have than just having straight flood walls and not having paths and trails. And this is a discussion that I want to continue to bring to the budget workshop as we move forward, Mr. Mayor. And I would really like to see if we could readjust the retreat and maybe move that to Cheyenne, Norway, if that's possible as well. I think everybody would benefit from a trip out of town. And Mr. Lakefield, just because you touched on it, I wanted to recognize and thank Mr. Lance Meyer. Over the last few weeks, I've had a number of neighborhood nuisance phone calls. Many of you have probably had them, from vacant lots and weeds to Christmas decorations that haven't come down as residents maybe are just vacant and gone out of their home, to graffiti. And it takes a tremendous amount of staff time. Lance, I thank you for taking the time. And I guess for residents, it's warm out, dogs are out. If we can be more neighborly and engage our neighbors to try to solve some of these issues, because it takes a tremendous amount of staff time to send out letters. And it's frustrating for everyone, but we need to figure out a way to be more neighborly, because if we have to call your council members to solve some of these problems, I don't think that's the best for our neighborhoods. So I just wanted to touch on that, Mr. Lakefield, and thanks for your time, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Straight, I would like to point out as well on that same subject that, they should report those incidences to the Public Works Department. There is a process for dealing with those nuisances, and it doesn't happen overnight, because the process is set out by city ordinance. So we have to go through the notification and go through that process, and it does take some time. So we can start and get the process underway, and hopefully that will speed up until we get some resolution too.
Mr. Lakefield, can they do that online?
I believe they can.
And that's where I look to Derek and say they can just go to the Public Works website and start that complaint electronically.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, obviously that is more efficient than calling the alderman and then having that information relayed, and it just adds another layer to that. So we can get things underway and get somebody out there to take a look at it and get the notification done and get things moving.
Any further questions for Mr. Lakefield? Thank you, sir. I would add, too, that within that process, it also provides for maybe